Welcome to the heart of racing. This is the good oil ahead of the Hill Stakes at Rosehill and the Turnbull Stakes at Flemington. Will Freedman's here. How are you, Will?
Very well, very well. Another big week of racing. Spring's in full bore, so plenty to talk about.
We're going to get into this on the show today. Tomorrow is the real difference between Sydney and Melbourne. The new races in Sydney, a traditional meeting in Melbourne. It's going to be our big talk topic today. We'll get to that really soon, but we've got to cover off on a few things that have happened. We always start with the pineapple. This is the Freedman Family Award, where we're going to give away a pineapple to the worst ride. What have you got for us as a nominee for this week?
Well, I've thrown in Zach Lloyd's ride on our TiVo, and if you go back and watch it, he gets himself from a wide barrier into the 1-1. So you're thinking, how the hell can you give this kid the pineapple nomination? But he then got himself locked in on the short price favourite. He went for the low percentage play inside and the gap didn't open. And then he switched to the outside and got beaten, I don't know, half a length. But look, there's been worse, but he'll have a nomination anyway. But I'd be very surprised if he
wins the pineapple
off that
at the end of the
There's
spring.
Plenty more opportunities for him to take out the pineapple. This probably won't be it.
Can I nominate Robbie Dolan for his ride on Mystic Mac in the 4th at Ipswich yesterday?
Was he your horse?
Well, my brother and I have got a 2.5% share. And even Bernadette Cooper said after the race, because he's new to riding at Ipswich, Robbie Dolan, that was a rookie error by trying to fan wide so quick. The horse lost a shoe, it was favourite in a maiden, it got rolled.
It's terrible track though, Ipswich. It really is.
Well, he tried to go wide too quick and he lost his back end anyway. Mate, the So Simple this week, I thought there were a few nominees for the So Simple, something we should have seen coming. I thought Just Fine winning, Think It Over winning. What do you think it was though?
No, look, we were probably a little bit harsh on Imperatrice, and I thought it was very good. Like they broke the track record. And people say, oh, the ground was hard. But the ground's hard plenty in Australia. This is a record for however long they've been running that race.
The 1,000-metre track record at Moonee Valley. Look, Imperatrice, I wanted to see her do it again after that slashing first up victory in the now infamous Giga Kick injury race. She was super, super duper.
But she's not in the Everest still.
This is the first crack that's ever opened in the Everest race.
That's So Simple, though. The So Simple is that they told us that this horse isn't going to the Everest. It wins, and everyone's like, oh, now it'll just barter for its deal. It's like, no, guys.
We're not going to the Everest.
We're not going to the Everest.
You know, so the Everest has just been so strong, and people have clambered to get their horses in. The competitions get in, try and do a deal with the slot holder, get me in that race. The Connections of Imperatrice got a big ownership group. They just said from the start, we're not going to the Everest, and they've shunned it.
Yeah.
And it's the informed sprinter.
It would start favourite. I think it was
would.
On Saturday after Think It Over ran, it was still favourite, as in brackets doubtful.
Yeah.
You know, it's incredibly simple to see, but we all didn't believe it. And now you've got a boom horse like Hawaii 05. Hard to knock Hawaii 05. Has been within a fingernail of Think It Over twice now, and still is 15-1 Think It Over's favourite. So I can't see the huge difference. Going to get him well at the weights, but anyway, that's a discussion maybe for next week in the lead up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fascinating to me that Imperatrice hasn't gone into the race. Now, the issue segment today, Gates Fly. What we want to get into is the rise of the Sydney Spring. Now, I saw Peter V'landys this week again in the Daily Telegraph was talking about this huge debate that goes on about the Everest should be a Group 1 race, yet the members on the patent committee that are from the Victorian Racing Club, and they stand in the way of it being a Group 1 and all of these things that happen. It's kind of all about the changing nature of our spring racing. But we shouldn't focus too much on the Everest because there's a stack of other innovations. We've got Golden Eagle and Golden Pendant and all these brand new races. But
Golden Gift.
Tomorrow's a flashpoint, though. The Saturday races at Rosehill, there's two new races. There's the Allen Brown Stakes. Now, it's a 1,400-metre race. Waterford's the $4.80 favourite at this stage. And it has $1.5 million prize money, same as the Epsom.
Yeah, it's
I can't work out, my head's not getting around what is the Alan Brown Stakes.
Yeah, it's a series of $1 million plus races, consecutive weeks. I can't remember the exact amount of weeks, but the idea is that there's $1 million race every week for, 15, 16 weeks.
Yeah.
And it sort of all comes to a close at I think the Golden Gift is the last one. But look, I don't even, as people that try and find races for horses, sometimes we're finding these races 2 weeks in advance because we don't know.
You don't really know what's happening.
Popping up. So as from a planning perspective, it's just gotten so much more complex. But at the same sense, it's driving so much more eyes to the sport. There's no doubt that $1 million races grab people's attention. It does. It's like going and playing the slot machines.
There was that new 7 Stakes the other week, which replaced the George Main, which is not the George Main anymore. It's now the King Charles, and it's worth $5 million.
And the reality is, as an owner, you don't buy horses to try and win your maiden prize money. Like, don't get me wrong, the maiden win is special, but you buy horses to try and win the big jackpot, and they're on every week. So it's bringing a lot of owners to the sport, knowing that there's so much prize money on offer. But at the same sense, are we getting too far one way that actually the tradition of Melbourne is starting to appeal a little bit more because we're getting further down a rabbit hole?
Well, it's interesting. And there's that Alan Brown Stage. There's the Tap Craig. I think it's the second year. NCAP, the runner-up from the Golden Rose, goes into it at Rosehill. It's a $500,000 race. So they're the kind of new races. And then we look at Melbourne. So the Hill Stakes is on at Rosehill, and it's a traditional race. And look,
won by some very good horses.
Yeah, very, very good horses. Not the greatest field this year, we have to say up front, but that's just the way it is. Then you go to Melbourne, and it's just an old-fashioned Flemington Turnbull Stakes meeting with all the traditional races that are there that are leading up towards Cox Plates and McKinnon's and all of those races to come down the track. And so it's the classic day where you've got the new versus the old. My opinion on it all is there's a place there has to be innovation. All sports have to innovate. Look what rugby league's done since it's introduced 6 again.
Yeah.
It's made the game fast. And you have to innovate. But at some stage, you have to consolidate the innovation. What's working, what's not, and have the guts to go, bang, that's not.
Well, I think it's like throwing mud at the wall and seeing what sticks, isn't it? And that's what we're doing at the moment, or New South Wales. They're throwing all the mud at the wall, and then they're gonna say, look, this works, that doesn't work. And that's fine.
So the mud has stuck with the Everest.
And the Golden Eagle.
The mud has stuck with the Golden Eagle fascinated me when it first was introduced.
Everyone thought you wouldn't get fields for it. Yeah. They thought they'd all go to stud and they wouldn't worry about it. But it's not true.
Because it's a race for 4-year-olds. Not something Australia's done normally. We have 2-year-old racing, 3-year-old racing, and then you go up into the handicaps and the weight for age racing.
We were all skeptic.
This is a 4-year-old race, and it's a cracking race.
Yeah, so that works.
So it's working.
That works. You said the Everest, the Kosciuszko works.
Kosciuszko works.
Country horses.
Without a doubt.
And that's just in the spring. You go to the autumn, you've got the country championships, a similar type of
I think
field.
it works. The provincial championship works.
It's
the
a lot is working.
Yeah.
But some of these races, they're too similar in nature to other races close by. So we're essentially taking some boom 3-year-olds from maybe running in other feature races. Like we had the Golden Rose this 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that sort of leads into this Tap Craig. But you've got the Caulfield Guineas next week. So not that it's Racing New South Wales prerogative to try and get horses into the Caulfield Guineas. It's not. They're all competing.
So NCAP, which is runner-up in the Golden Rose, it was in front, a stride before the line. You've got militarised charging at it. You've got cylinder charging at it. It runs runner-up in the Golden Rose. It goes into this Tap Craig. So you would think then its natural progression in the old days would have been the Caulfield Guineas.
Yeah.
But instead, Racing New South Wales has this new race, encouraging horses to stay here. It's a competition for horses, for horse flesh.
And jockeys.
Yep.
Eyes are always on jockeys and horses. So if you can attract most of them, you'll get most of the viewership. It's as simple as that. And Peter V'landys has no reservation in saying, I'll do whatever it takes to try and attract our marquee players. And, he's doing his version of it. Again, I agree with you. It'll consolidate now
At some point,
and we'll find a little bit more consistency in what we're seeing, and then the innovative races will be less frequent.
I think there's no doubt that all of it has been unbelievably good for racing at a time of high competition, at a time when you've got social media and all of these things taking young people's attention, trying to get their attention, using all those things, putting on these big parties at this time of year when normally the party in Sydney normally ended at around Epsom handicap time.
Yeah.
And then everyone went to Melbourne and the carnival went down there. And all New South Wales has done is protect its right to say, hey, we want to have big racing here too. Who said that Melbourne owned it?
100%. So anyway, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens over the next couple of years, but probably should get into some of the big races this weekend.
There's some big races this weekend. Do you want to start in Sydney or Melbourne?
No, we'll go Sydney.
We'll start in Sydney. The Hill Stakes. Now, here we have Montefilia, a horse that I've had in the Sayonara in the past, right? Here it is again as the favourite in the Hill Stakes. There's horses in the race like Huya Mal. I'm always interested in Fireburn, a former slipper winner. But the Hill Stakes is probably the feature race on the card. And I'm going to say, because we've sort of delayed the Sayonara this week until we got to the race previews, I'm Sayonara. Can I Sayonara a horse twice?
Well, I think you're going to.
I'm going to Sayonara Montefilia again. It hasn't won for like 16 months, and it's raced 10 times since, and I think every time it's raced since, it's been $6 or less and hasn't won.
It's an interesting one because you would have thought they're running out of time to put her in foal if she doesn't perform. Like this will be the litmus test in the Hill Stakes. If she doesn't perform, I'm tipping she's going to the breeding barn
straight away,
and she'll be in foal by the end of the year.
Hang on, what is it? It's October.
They'll keep covering until, like, if she gets in foal in 2 or 3 weeks, fine, no problem.
Yeah, she can have a foal in 11 months' time, September of next year.
Yeah, so I'm tipping this is the litmus test for her this time. She can't win this Hill Stakes.
Could be the ultimate Sayonara.
It could be. But she's, on her day, she's a very talented mare, but it does appear like her days are probably past for a little bit. But my favourite race, and I think the feature race, is the Roman Consult.
Yep.
I think this is the race for Sydney. This is the best race on the card because this is the preview to the Coolmore in Melbourne. All of these 3-year-olds, or the top 3 or 4, will go to Melbourne for the Coolmore.
And the Coolmore is the 1,200-metre race for 3-year-olds on Derby Day at Flemington, and it's a traditional stallion-making race. Osmosis here trying to remain unbeaten for Björn Baker.
Am I right? It's changed colours. It looks like China Horse Club has
bought into
Osmosis. And Newgate, obviously. So that's one story. King's Gambit on the bend. They're all saying the bend will help, but he keeps letting punters down. King's Gambit. He's always the boom horse and doesn't sort of come through. And then you've got Barber, who is also a lovely horse, but
doesn't. I don't know if he's quite come up. Look, Osmosis is fascinating because he's had 3 starts for 3 wins. This is his 4th start. If he wins this, he goes to the Coolmore, has a 5th start. You've mentioned China Horse Club, Newgate. They're all over this horse. It might only race 5 times. If it wins its next 2 starts, it might go straight off and be a stallion.
Well, it'll definitely run in the autumn because it's too late to go to stud now. So it'll run in the autumn, but then
risking the value.
But then comes the question of the Golden Eagle. Like you get round to the autumn, and if it can win over 1,400 in the autumn, then you start thinking, could this win a Golden Eagle?
Well, that's one of the things that these races have done is they've held a couple of these horses, like Animo, held them in racing for longer rather than going to the breeding barn. Osmosis too, Björn Baker, we should just cover off. People thought about it for the Everest. I think some connections were keen for the Everest. Björn Baker always said, look, it's just come up too early for this horse. I don't want to bust its gut. So it's definitely not going to get to that last slot in the
Before
Everest.
we move on, there is another horse. Celestial Legend is a very, very good horse, I think. It ran a massive race in the Heritage, and I think if it was a little bit more professional, it would have given Osmosis a run for its money. So at $5, it'd probably be my tip in that race is to
Celestial Legend. Okay, I'm going to stick with Osmosis. The Tap Craig Stakes, named after the famous race callers in Sydney. NCAP, as we said, goes from a second in the Golden Rose. Look, it's an even money favourite in that race.
It's a quick analysis.
I just
don't worry about it. Move on.
Just back it and move on.
It's a put in, take out job.
If it's even money or 210 and you're listening to this, just get on the Tab website and back it straight away. Let's get to Melbourne, Will, because at Flemington, something fascinating is happening in the Turnbull Stakes. We've got Gold Trip. It was good first up. Last year's Melbourne Cup winner. It's in it, as you'd expect it to be in a 2,000-metre weight for age race at Flemington. Solcombe, it's going to run in this year's Melbourne Cup. It's got the form on the board. There's horses like Osipenko there. But there's a horse from Hong Kong, Romantic Warrior. Now, J-Mac, when we had him on the podcast a fortnight ago, you asked him, give me one horse for this spring. And before you got the words out, he said, Romantic Warrior. He went down and rode it in track work last Sunday morning on a Sunday. He got up and went to Melbourne and rode this horse in track work. It goes in tomorrow as an even money favourite. It will be a must watch because this horse's performance could shape the entire spring as we head towards Cox Plates and McKinnon's.
I'm not as categoric on this being the ultimate test for him because got to remember 2,000 meters in Hong Kong is very different to anywhere else in the world. It's on extremely firm ground.
Rock hard track.
They crawl for the main part of the race and they sprint home. So often horses can perform well better first up because it's not as hard a test throughout the middle. Australian trainers and jockeys aren't stupid. They're going to know Romantic Warrior, probably the class horse of the race, can accept that.
Yeah.
But not the fittest horse in the race at this point, coming first up with only a trial.
He is first up with only a trial.
There's a lot of question marks on this horse. That doesn't mean it won't go to the Valley. And at the Valley, where it's a short straight and it may sit on speed, be able to zip and use its class to win. But I think the Flemington Straight first up is a long straight at the end of 2,000 metres.
I got to say, though, it's hard. I know people find it hard. It's hard to line up Hong Kong form. This horse, its record, 5-year-old gelding, it's had 14 starts, 10 wins, 3 placings, $15 million in prize money. And it's taken some big scalps over there, like some seriously big scalps from around the world because they go to Hong Kong and try and win the big prize money there. I think Romantic Warrior is the real deal. But as you say, we're going to find out a lot of it. You're not sayonara.
I'm sayonaraing it for Flemington.
Just tomorrow.
I'm not saying it's gone for the Cox Plate. I'm saying tomorrow he is very vulnerable. And I think the other trainers are going to know that. If you've got a Solcombe that's got a run or two under its belt, why aren't you making this a true test? Let's see how it runs out 2,000 metres when there's a strong gallop. There's a spanner to be thrown. If it wins, it'll fall in. That's my tip.
Okay, well, that's an interesting one from you. Very interesting to be sayonaraing Romantic Warrior that J-Mac has said to be the horse of the spring. Quickly want to cover off the Bart Cummings because if you win this at the 2,500 metre race, you win this, you go into the Melbourne Cup. The reason I'm interested in this race, just quickly for us, is First Immortal's the favourite.
Yeah.
It's the second emergency. Cabrini's the second favourite. It's the first emergency. You got Shayha, which is quite a good horse. It's the third emergency. All the old sluggers that go round and around and around in circles over 2,500 metres of Flemington are in the field. And the promising ones are down in the emergencies.
You earn your right to go into those races. I've had this discussion 1,000 times. You do earn your right, but for a race that is winning you're in, should the VRC have an option to have a few wild cards?
First Immortal should be going into that race. Should be able to get in
20.
The race.
It's still not a fatal complete or win, but
that's a bad barrier over 2,500 metres of Flemington.
It's not great if nothing comes out and you find that the two favourites that would actually be serious contenders in the Melbourne Cup.
Or
Can't
get to the field.
Yeah.
Not cool. Do you want to unload?
NCAP. It's just I can't go past it. It's like that form is superior to anything that's in that race.
NCAP in the Tap Craig at Rosehill. Well, did you just sayonara Romantic Warrior? I'm just still trying to comprehend it.
It's gone.
I'm unloading.
You're unloading.
Romantic Warrior.
It's even money, right? We can have a wager between the two of us.
I'm just going to do a little 15-second bit here that we can replay next week. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Here you go. Will, I'm unloading tomorrow on Romantic Warrior.
It's gone. I've sayonara'd it. There's no Romantic Warrior.
Okay, so that's the little replay bit.
You can get caught up in the romantic nature of it.
Okay. Now, you know how we do the segment where we ring one of your traders, mates?
Yeah.
And they give us one. They don't care if it's in Wagga or it's in Quilpie, Traralgon. We don't care where they run. Murray Bridge. We just want the win.
Yeah. I've got Michael Hickmott this week. He's coming off a low base. I say this every week, but my friend trainers aren't being too friendly at the moment. I saw Cody Morgan win 2 other races on the same day.
That he tipped one.
Yeah, and he tipped the wrong one. So,
and you're calling this segment the Owen.
The Owen, because we're 0-3.
Yeah. Is Robert Hickmott there?
Hey, mate, I'll have to call you back. Sorry.
All right. No worries. You know he won't talk to us now.
He sounded busy with his horses.
No, because you've called him Robert. It's his brother. It's insulting.
Oh, this is Michael.
This is Michael.
Did I call him Robert?
Yeah, but
there is a Robert, right?
I know Michael pretty well. He'd be busy.
I had the wrong Hickmott.
But while he was right at the end, I was like, oh, we'll text him and we'll see if he'll send something through. He might be in the middle of something. He said he just texted back and he said, dealing with an issue here, sorry. So
he sounded like he was dealing with an issue. I think me calling him Robert, but anyway.
But he sent a text saying, Lord Vladivostok.
Give me a look at that text. You can't even read. Lord Vladivostok, race 9, and Wine Baron, race 10.
That's at Murray Bridge on Saturday.
Murray Bridge.
Race 9 and race 10. So
I said before we don't care if it's at Murray Bridge.
He's given us two. Number 2, race 9, and number 10, race 10.
Okay, Lord Vladivostok, M. Hickmott, J. Panel to ride, coming out of barrier 12 over a mile in the Murray Bridge Gold Cup is $4. Okay, Lord Vladivostok. And race 10, what did he tip us there?
Number 10.
Number 10, Wine Baron. It's $3.90. That's in the Benchmark 64. And I love betting in those races. Benchmark 64s at Murray Bridge on a Saturday afternoon at 5 to 6.
And he's given us 2 chances to break Owen. So we aren't going to be 0-4.
Okay, one of those 2 will win. When you're betting in the Benchmark 64 at Murray Bridge on Saturday at 5 to 6, that's when you're making out to your wife or your girlfriend you're not betting in the race.
No, that's
what have you backed here? Oh, nothing.
That's the proper get-out stakes at 5 to 6. So anyway.
Oh, good on you, Will. Early next week, our special guest on the Heart of Racing will be the Melbourne race caller, Matt Hill, on cheating death, which he literally did one day to his favourite horses, to the pressure of calling the Melbourne Cup and the Cox Plate. Good on you, Will.
No, thank you. See you next week.